Hello, everyone, and welcome to Chapter 9, Designing Weight Management and Body Composition Programs. We're going to do several of these throughout this quarter. Don't remember what exactly ones we have. We have like a weight loss one, weight gain one, and we're going to talk about why and how we're going to do that. And those are supposed to be in-class assignments, so in a hybrid class, not sure how we're going to do it, but we're going to roll with it. So we all pretty much know this every time. But here are the things that if somebody is obese, this is what could happen. We could have heart disease and stroke, could have dyslipidemia, hypertension, high blood pressure, glucose intolerance, diabetes, osteoarthritis, gallbladders, cancers, menstrual irregularities, and obstructive pulmonary disease. All these things are happening if you're obese. It's possible. If you're underweight, it could go the opposite. It is possible. You could have malnutrition, you could have electrolyte imbalances, osteopenia, porosis fractures, renal and reproductive problems, muscle wasting away, cardiac arrhythmias. This is only about 2% of the population is what I have written on mine. But this fluid electrolyte imbalance, so Missy, when she's pregnant, we were worried about her losing weight. And part of that's because she was so nauseated, and also, that's what babies do to some people. But we actually took her into the ER, and she had got fluids given to her so that she wouldn't have those electrolyte imbalances that we could be worried about. So there are some BMI classifications. I'm not sure if BMI is the best thing. It only works for about 90% of the population, but a really fit person or a really underweight person, it's going to say weird things to them. So an underweight person would be a BMI of under 18.5. And then overweight would be a BMI of 25 to 29. Let's say children end up being kind of in that 95th percentile, hopefully, for their age and sex. Obese would be over 30. As I say, it doesn't consider body composition. So like if you have a really strong, buff person, they're going to look like they're obese or overweight. But when you look at them, like there's like barely any body fat on that person because they're so strong. So it doesn't consider body composition. That's one of the drawbacks of it. But as I say, it works for most of the population. So there is definitely a global pandemic of people being overweight. There's more than 1.9 billion people are overweight in the world, and there's only, 6 to 7 billion people total. So that would be in just, I believe, in our country alone, there's 600 million. Variables in different countries between 20 to 6, and some are over 60%, depending on what country you're coming from. There we go. Sorry, U.S. There we go. U.S. is 36.5% obese whenever this book was written. And then there's severely obese would be more than 40. And then children are overweight. Over a third of the children are overweight. So when you look at kids at schools, yikes, that's a lot. And I've gone over this in detail in other classes, but you can definitely see where there was hardly anyone over 30% BMI. And then when you get over to here, you've got a third of the countries over 30%, 25% or more are overweight or in orange, over 20. So the entire country has more than 1 in 5 people are overweight. And in a lot of places, that's 1 in 3. Yikes, the South. I always had to laugh at this one because Mississippi was always one of the first ones. That's where I came before I came to PUC. So in 2020, the U.S. Surgeon General's goal was to get children to decrease their overweight to less than 15%. Well, they're over 30 right now, so they got a long ways to go. Adults, they want that to be below 30, so that on this lovely thing here, as a whole, we are not all red. So there are some different types of obesity. So the fat distribution, so the visceral fat would be an increase of cardiovascular disease, diabetes, dyslipidemia. So you'd have an android person would be an upper body obesity. So that's the one that looks like they're really top heavy and really skinny legs. And then the gonoid would be lower body in density. So that'd be more around the waist and hips and upper thighs. So when the another one that you could do is a waist to hips ratio. And we've done that in some of our classes where you're measuring the hips with hey, I just found a bunch of those the other day, I would have to say, for measuring waist and hips. And so if you have a waist to hip of over 0.9, then that would be a hard or an at-risk person, and females would be over 0.8. So a kilocalorie or kcal is a heat energy. So to design a energy weight or loss gain or loss program, you need to be able to calculate how much calories are they using compared to how many calories they're eating, and how you would recommend they do that. So it's usually measured with carbs and proteins are 4 kcals per gram, and fats are 9 kcals per gram. And then 3,500 kcals would be 1 pound of fat. So an energy balance or an energy intake is your intake plus expenditure. So a positive would be a gain and a negative would be a loss. Now I do have to kind of talk about at some points they have taken gastric bypasses where they'll take either so this would be your stomach here. So they would actually take the esophagus, your small intestines, and they would skip part of the stomach so that you wouldn't absorb as much. So the surgeon would construct a small stomach pouch at the top here and create an outlet directly into the small intestines, bypassing most of the stomach and the entire duodenum. I remember that word. And some of the duodenum. The dark areas highlights by flow of the GI tract. The pale arrows are the ones that they're skipping. And the other way they could do that would be gastric banding, where they make a small stomach with a band and they put a port on that, and that's another way of passing. So the idea that they thought, if we want people not to gain any more weight, we need to make it so they can't they can't absorb as much. Now, my best friend's dad did this after he went to a big and tall store, and he looked at a belt and he laughed because it was taller than he was, and then he tried to put it around his waist, and then he realized, I am bigger around than I am tall. He was probably in the 400-pound range at that time. When I knew him, he was probably in the 250s. Well, his doctor recommended a gastric bypass, and so he had that for I don't know how many years. But when he was my pastor at the academy I was at, so my junior or senior year, I don't remember which, he had to get it undone, his gastric bypass. So all this little stuff, all this here that hasn't been used for, we'll just say 10 years, I don't remember what the number was now about the size of your pinky instead of being about the size of your thumb or bigger. So, I'd say an inch around. Like your large intestine's 2 inches around. I'm just ballparking it here. This would be about an inch around. This was now less than a centimeter. So when they reattached all this, they actually stapled his stomach so that he only had an area of about 2 or 3 ounces is all he could put in there, because now all this was going to be hyper absorbent, and they were worried he was going to gain weight because he was now using all of his intestines again. So they limited how much food he could take. And the reason he had to get it undone is because there are parts of your small intestines that absorb specific nutrients. And so he wasn't getting enough of, I don't even know what nutrients it was, but there was a nutrients that was making him sick that he wasn't getting enough of. And that was because it was absorbed in the small intestine area that he had skipped. So basically, it's not worth taking the easy way out, because it might come back to bite you later. And I remember him walking around with a water thing and an extra cup because he didn't know if he was going to throw it back up or not. And this lasted for months before he could finally figure out how much food he could eat without throwing it back up, because his stomach was only this big. All right, so some other things. So you have your total energy expenditure. So this is a little more math here. So you could have your total energy expenditure, your resting metabolic rate, which we can get on the machine upstairs, your exercise activity thermogenesis, and then your non-exercise thermogenesis. So how much energy you use during, or how much energy you're using when you're exercise and non-exercising. So your RMR is the largest contributor to your total energy expenditure. So how we would measure that, so we doubly label the water, And then we use indirect calorie. So we either do 1 met is 3.5 milliliters or per minute, or 1 kcal per hour per kilogram. So there is a table in your book. I think I have it here later. But yeah, you can look that one up. So obesity is a multifactorial problem. So it could be a hormonal control of your resting metabolic rate. The number of fat cells that you have are inherited. They can increase when you eat too much or overfeeding, as they put it here. That could be your genes. Some people have a deficiency in this receptor and the leptin. And then the fat distribution, whether it's VAT or SAT. I think that's the different types of obesity we talked about just a little bit ago. And then your environment, the diet and the physical activity. It's probably the one that we concentrate on the most, because these are ones you can't really control. A little bit on the hormonal control, but environment, what your diet is, and how much physical activity you have. So your energy balance, as we said earlier, gain weight, positive, lose weight, negative energy balance. So combining a proper diet with daily physical activity is the general weight management principles that we try to go by as exercise professionals. So you want to usually set your preliminary steps in a weight management system is set your body weight goal. So first you're going to measure the body composition. That's why we did that in our lab the other day. So use free fatty mass and desired body fat percentage to set a realistic goal, a target weight. So you want to assess the kcal intake. So usually you would want a food record or some dietary software. Man, Map My Run is awesome for that. You can just put all your things there. They even have Adventist haystacks on there. That one always made me laugh. Then you can access the kcal expenditure. You can either factor it or the TEE or a total energy expenditure method. And see what this has for us.
Okay, so imagine 1 pound of your own fatty flesh.
So if you burn that amount of flesh, that sounds kind of, weird, but if you were to convert that into energy, you would get about 3,500 calories, which is quite a lot of energy.
That's me talking with Dr. Carson Chow, an MIT-trained physicist and mathematician, and he's explaining to me why we should care how much energy fat has.
In order for you to live and function, you need to burn energy to keep your heart beating, all your organs going, and also to move around.
But energy doesn't come for free. So if you're not consuming enough calories, you're going to burn that energy with your own fat. And so a lot of diet books like to teach people this rule, but the problem is it's wrong. And here's why.
So let's say I eat 500 calories less a day. So after 1 week, it would be 3,500 calories and I would lose a pound, right? Because I'd have to burn it.
Yeah, and if I stayed on this diet for a year, I would burn through 52 pounds.
Be great. If you keep taking this thing, well, after 2 years, I'd lose 104, and after 10 years, I'd lose 500 pounds, So obviously, at some point, this rule is going to break down. It will actually break down before you get to a year.
So to understand the real math behind losing weight, Dr. Chow wanted me to imagine a leaky bucket.
You have some water in the bucket, and that's the amount of body fat or tissue in your body.
And the leak represents the rate at which you're burning energy.
Well, in reality, what you're doing is you're adding water at the top. That's like eating food. And when you're in steady state, the amount of water you add at the top exactly balances the amount of water you lose at the bottom. If you're pouring in more water than it's leaking, then you're going to gain weight.
Now, if you think about the physics of a leaky bucket, the more water that you pour into the bucket, the faster it's going to leak.
So your leak rate scales with how big you are. And this is a well-known fact that the larger you are, the more energy you burn. You're going to burn more energy because it takes more energy just to move a larger mass. You have more tissue, and just to keep that tissue going, it takes more energy.
Congratulations, you have a new steady state. But let's say you don't want to stay this large person that you've become. Well, the opposite is true as well. You could pour in a lot less water than you're leaking, but
as you start to lose weight, you start to get smaller and you burn less energy. You start to metabolically adapt to your new diet.
And so you're never going to lose weight at one constant rate. It's always going to curve from one steady state down to another, which means
when you go on a diet, the 3,500 calorie rule is the wrong rule.
There's a new rule. Wait for it.
The new rule is for every 10 calories you eat less, you will lose a pound. But it will take you about 3 years or more to see that the full effect of your diet. which is still pretty good. All you have to do is eat 100 calories less, you lose 10 pounds. That's like a can of Coke. So you should expect the diet to be extremely slow.
Right, but nobody wants a slow diet. We all want to lose 20 pounds for this summer. What's wrong with just focusing on losing weight rapidly?
The problem is, once they're down at that new weight, they have to be vigilant for the rest of their life, because losing weight is slow, gaining weight is also slow. But it slowly creep up, and then 2-3 years later, bang, it hits them. They're back to where they were.
So the mathematically approved rule for weight loss, for every 10 calories I don't eat a day, I'll eventually lose 1 full pound, which means changing your steady state is a marathon and not a sprint.
Hey guys, this is Todd. Thanks so much for watching. If you want to have life-changing epiphanies like...
Okay, so
it is kind of interesting there that and most of us probably hadn't even thought of that, is that if you start losing weight, eventually your body does adjust to the less calories that it is consuming, and that's a really good idea there. So that's something I usually think of. So when you determine determine the present body fat percentage, then you want to calculate the present fat-free mass, and then you want to set a body composition goal. So you want to divide that fat-free mass by the fat-free percentage goal, and then answer that target weight, assuming there's no change in the fat-free mass. So in order to estimate that energy expenditure, you're going to take that resting RMR, and you're going to have to probably predict that. I mean, it'd be awesome if we could actually put your clients on the machine upstairs and get your RMR, and then estimate the daily energy required for their activity level, and there is a table there to get that. Physical activity logs would be great. Then your total energy expenditure, you're going to just their physical activity level, sedentary, low, active, or very active, and then use those total energy expenditure things there. So chapter 9.2 and 9.3 tables, I think they're right next to each other, are going to be really important. And then to design that weight loss program, that 3,500 kcal deficit would lose 1 pound, to a point obviously, by the video there. So trying to do a $500 to $1,000 calorie day deficit, have a caloric restriction and an exercise combination there. So the exercise, you want to conserve the fat-free mass. Collaborate with a nutritionist, preferably, which actually might be you, to ensure adequate nutrient intake. So that nutritionist is going to help if they're like vegetarian or not, or vegan or not. And then you want to reassess the body composition for fat loss at the end of it. So here are just kind of the basic principles here. And I'm just going to give you a second to look at those. All right, so here is what your projects are going to kind of look like here when we do these in-class ones, or I'm not sure how we're going to actually go about this on days when if we're going to hybrid this. So we're going to take the client's age. I will usually give you a lot of this, and then you get to do this to a point. So you have a 35-year-old female who is 62 inches tall. Their body weight currently is 121. Their body fat is 26, and their free fatty mass is 74%. So their goal is to get down to 20% body fat and a free fatty mass of 80. So they're at 2674, and they want to go to 2080. They average their caloric intake is 2,000 calories. Lucky if that's the case. A very low per average fitness level, and they have a occupation where they sit around all day. You're going to assess the body weight. We already did that, or that's all up here given to you. Target there for the subject for use a 3 or 7 day food records, hopefully. So then you're going to calculate their body weight. So their current thing is they are 121 times 74% would give them a present fatty mass of 96.9 pounds. The target body weight then to get 80% would be multiplied here, divide by 0.8, would give them a body weight goal of 121 pounds. So a little bit of math here. Calculate the weight loss goal, 10 pounds. So they need to have 10 pounds times 3,500 pounds per day, or to get this to happen. So using daily expenditure records of the client, they use the energy expenditure is RMR plus the activity level. So the RMR comes from our charts, and then so does this estimated activity level times their weight, I believe. Notice they did that in kilograms there, so you'll have to convert that. Plus the activity daily level, and that's their height. And then here's this times how many years, gets them their resting metabolic rate without doing anything is 1,346. Now the good news is a lot of things are actually going to give you this number. So like if you put this into a calculator online, you'll probably get what is the energy expenditure of a person that weighs this much, that is this active, and they'll give you a number. It's probably how I would do it, but just knowing that this exists and how they get it is very important. Your daily occupational level. This person's a light activity person. And again, they're going to say about 471. So their total energy expenditure is 1,800 calories per day. So where you were going to go with this is then you're going to say in order for you to get this person to lose weight here. So they take their average, their resting metabolic rate plus exercise. So there plus there. And then exercise is going to be 300. So their energy expenditure is going to be 2,059. So we invite the clients to continue exercise daily, expending approximately 300 kcals per exercise workout. And then increase their, and this one she says they may increase their, oh my goodness, 2,060 calories compared to 2,000 calories. Yeah, that's going to be tough. So for days she cannot exercise, she needs to restrict her calories to 1,760. So I'll say that's where kind of the whole thing goes. So a little bit of math here, and we're going to do it several different times. And I like this one because it kind of gives you each week. I'm not sure why that's on there. So this week we want to do diet of 100 or exercise 100 calories, then 150. So they're going to work out a little bit more each time depending on the week. Or week one, they're going to try to increase the intensity. Still going to try to have 500 kcals per day. Less. So this is a different person, obviously. So less calories than this week for week 3 and 4, 5 and 6. And then this will eventually equal our 3,500 calories. So we're going to use this weight training body weight planner for a more realistic kind of all here, and hopefully you can scan that. And then here's a video of how that is done.
Hi, I'm Dr. Kevin Hall from the National Institutes of Health. This video provides a brief introduction to the Body Weight Planner, an online tool that tells you the calories and physical activity needed to reach your goal weight and maintain it afterwards. The Body Weight Planner is intended for use in adults 18 years of age or older and not for pregnant or breastfeeding women. To show you how it works, I'll use myself as an example. I enter my current weight, 180 pounds, my sex, male, age, 44, and height, 5 feet 10 inches. Next, I need to estimate my current physical activity level, so I click Estimate Your Level. I'll describe my physical activity at work as very light. A description comes up that says, sitting at the computer most of the day or sitting at a desk, which sounds about right. Then I describe my physical activity at leisure time. I'll select moderate. The description says regular activity at least once a week, and this includes walking to work 10 to 30 minutes per day. That description also seems to fit. This gives me a physical activity level of 1.6, which is about average. Moving to the next step, I can enter my goal weight, which is 160 pounds. Now I can enter how many days I want to give myself to reach that goal, or I can enter a date to reach it. I'll select 6 months from now, which is about 180 days. Then I'll go to the next step where I can enter the changes in physical activity. I'm planning to start walking my dog in the mornings, and I will use the Calculate button to help me determine the corresponding percentage increase in physical activity. I plan to walk at a moderate intensity for an additional 30 minutes, 5 times per week. This is in addition to the physical activity I'm already doing, like walking to work that I mentioned previously. I could also add other physical activity changes, but I'll stick to this for now. So walking the dog gives me a 12% increase in physical activity above my starting activity entered on the first screen. I'll go on to the final step where I can see my results. The Bodyweight Planner says that I will maintain my current weight by eating 2,745 calories a day. To reach my goal of 160 pounds in 6 months from now, I need to eat 2,320 calories a day, along with starting to walk my dog in the mornings. After I reach my goal weight, I can eat 2,622 calories to maintain 160 pounds, assuming I continue with all my physical activity. I hope you find the Bodyweight Planner to be a helpful tool.
All right, so with a exercise prescription for weight loss, get that thing over there. So exercise by itself without diet only has modest effects. Now, when you're young, it can make a bigger difference. Now, when you cross that threshold of about 30, exercise doesn't do as much for some reason. It's partially because your metabolism slows down a little bit. But the ones that you're probably going to be working with, most of your clients are probably going to not be college students with high metabolisms. So working with a nutritionist would be the best way to get a professional for that kind of diet. 150 minutes a week is insufficient to prevent weight gain. So that's not that much physical activity. So greater than 250 weeks is recommended if you're trying to lose weight. So there's definitely a dose-response relationship, which we talked about earlier in one of our chapters before this. I think it was like the first or second chapter. You know, the more exercise you do, the more your body is going to respond to it. So if you're trying to lose weight, you're going to need to, your exercise prescription is going to probably be a daily. You're going to tell them what kind of intensity. The time would be more than 60 minutes probably, because you need more than 250. So 250 divided by 7 is like, 25 minutes a day minimum. So probably exercising 3 times a week for more than 60 minutes is probably going to be a more doable thing than a just like 30-minute walk every day. So going to the gym and working out for more than an hour. So the type, aerobic is going to be better for weight loss, but using resistance training to prevent any weight regain and preserve your free fat or fat-free mass. So I would say 2/3 aerobic and 1/3 resistance training is probably what you're going to want to do there. So here's some just ones. Here's table 9.5 here. So if your goal is health benefit, you're going to want to go for at least 30 minutes at moderate or 20 minutes of vigorous 3 times a week, 2 times a week. For weight loss, that's the one we're really looking at here, is you want to be moderate for 150 to 250 minutes a week, and that's the American College of Sports Medicine. And then to prevent weight regain, being exercising 60 to 90 minutes 7 days a week at a moderate pace. So that's not like going nuts. That would be like a 60-minute walk. Would probably be at least that. Vigorous for 35 minutes a week. So a pretty good run will keep you from regaining weight. So some benefits for weight loss. Benefits of exercise, you're going to have increased energy expenditure. You're going to minimize the loss of fat-free mass. You're going to increase your growth hormones and catechisms. Not good at making words here today, apparently. Increasing aerobic fitness and the ability to expend more kcals. And then you offset some diet-introduced reduction in your resting metabolic rate. So exercisers maintain weight loss more than non-exercisers. Probably the easiest way to do it. So that's why we say that earlier we're like exercise is not enough, but it does help maintain the weight loss that you would have. So a thing you have to really kind of think about is planning that behavior, and here's kind of a step-by-step once the client has gotten into that preparation stage of change that we talked about. They're contemplating it, their preparation, that means they're starting to exercise. So you want to identify the behavioral problems. You're going to set goals, and we love that SMARTS model. I think we're going over that in a minute. So plan and initiate those changes, self-monitor, whether it's a tracking app or a calendar or a notebook, however they do it. Reinforcement and relapse prevention. A lot of I love the buddy system, having a spouse or social media helping you, as in don't use social media to like making sure you're doing something or to compare yourself to, but to hold you accountable. Having like a friend or a group that exercises. I mean, I saw it today. There were 3 guys that are usually in the gym in the morning, and from 8 to 9, they're pretty much walking the track out there in 45-degree weather today. So, I mean, they had a group of people that, that keeps them going back to the gym every day. And then some coping strategies, if anything, making exercise fun so it doesn't get redundant, and then reassess the evaluation of that plan. All right, so I want you to watch this one here and tell me what you think of this gal's plan. I do think there's a little bit of language in here, but tell me what you think of this.
Next question is from B. Baux.
Whoops, I guess this was not the video I thought it was, so we're just going to listen to what this person says.
What is the best way to approach training obese clients?
Yeah, okay, so obese clients, so we're talking about people who are in that kind of clinically obese, which, by the way, now is a pretty big percentage of the population now. But when you're training someone like this, consider that the psychological piece is far more important than the mechanisms that are involved with weight loss. Okay, so obviously we know if they ate less and they moved more and they exercised that they would lose weight. That's obvious. But it's not even close to that easy. Okay, you're dealing with someone who you have to completely get them to change their relationship to food. They have to change their relationship to exercise and how they are with their own body. That takes some time. So one of the first things I like to do is I incorporate strength training, and I tell them they're not going to lose any weight for at least a couple months. So for the first 2 months, we're not going to lose any weight. My goal with you is to strengthen your body and get your metabolism to speed up a little bit. And I know if you get stronger and your weight doesn't change, then we probably have lost some fat and gained some muscle. Then when it comes to the diet, I like to try to add things before I take things out. And why? Because it's different. It feels different. Feels different to somebody to say, don't eat these anymore versus, hey, look, don't change anything else. Just make sure that you eat 130 grams of protein every day. So make sure that you hit that first. If you hit that, I don't care about anything else. But through doing that that'll get them to naturally want to eat a little less anyway because of the satiety effects, for example, of protein. But I mean, in a nutshell, it's a very slow, measured approach. It's not we're going to get this weight off you because that's what you hired me for type of deal, because you will fail in the long run.
I mean, that's pretty much exactly how probably all of us go towards it. I'll add one thing on the exercise portion, because when they would be with me, the goal with that, I'm going to strength training. And strength training, by the way, for this person could look vastly different, right? So sometimes strength training was holding their hand and them standing up and sitting down on a chair.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Now, I've also had obese clients that could still put a barbell on their back and actually get a pretty decent squat. Mm-hmm. So depending on where, I'm going to meet them wherever their level is for strength training, and then we're going to primarily focus on strength training with me. Then this is where, and I think I brought this up a long time ago on the show. I used to get these colored dots, and a client like this, I used to love to do this, where I'd have them put it sporadically through the house, on the refrigerator, maybe on their bathroom mirror, maybe by the TV. And when they saw this, they would do something. And every client was different, unique. Sometimes it was mobility work, sometimes it was body weight squats, sometimes it was a sit up or whatever. But I'd have like little things that are just 10 sets or 10 reps of something just to keep them moving and trying to implement just more movement in their day.
A little reminder.
And I should probably post the rest of that video, but we're going to keep moving here. So there is a time that you do need to have somebody gain weight because they've had medical issues. They've had, eating disorders. So trying to appropriately gain weight without, and you have to be careful sometimes with the mental side of this as well. But we're going to focus just on the numbers pretty much here. But just know that when you're doing a weight gain program, you probably need to be careful with how you approach it with your client. So we know that a pound of muscle is between 2,800 to 3,500 calories. So we want to use the body weight planner to help us with this. So the diet, you're going to work with a nutritional professional, hopefully. And usually you want to increase that protein intake 1.4 to 2 grams per kilogram of the client. So they want to exercise a lot of resistance training, and you want to really measure that body composition as they're going along there. So that's why a lot of places, a lot of big gyms have some nice body composition checkers, basically. So you want to, for a novice, they want to do 3 days a week. For a more advanced person, so 5 to 6 days a week, usually in a split routine. So it'll be like upper body, lower body every other day. You're going to have work out at that 70 to 75% of their 1 rep max or 10 to 12 rep max. However much they can do there is probably going to be 10 to 12% or 10 to 12 reps, as many you can do. If you can do 10, then you need to up the weight, or if you can't get to 12, then you're probably at the right weight. So probably an hour each one of these kind of workouts here. So the resistance, multiple sets, so 2 to 3 sets of 10 to 12 exercise per muscle group. And this is where I am right now in the middle of the quarter for my weight training classes. So a combination of aerobic and resistance training is more effective than just one by itself, whether it's weight gain or weight loss. All right, so I want you to, here's the one I wanted you to hear. What do you think of this gal's plan, and would you recommend it or not? And I will make you answer a question at the end of that.
Hi everyone, I'm Sadie, and this is how I lost 80 pounds in just 5 months. Hey friends, make sure you stay all the way to the end of the video so that you can hear where I am now and where we're headed together. Also, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and make sure to give me a big thumbs up, because this is my first YouTube video and I really want this channel to be successful for you guys. My only hope is to help you all lose weight based on my own experiences. 2 weeks before December 13th, 2017, I had decided at some point that the reason that I was so heavy had to be because of some kind of disease or disorder. So I went to the doctor and I told myself when I went into the doctor's office, if all of my results come back negative, I have to lose weight. I have no more excuses. This was December 13th, 2017. I went into the office and she read me back my results. Everything was totally normal. So I stuck to my promise to myself. So I asked this doctor to help me lose weight. So the first thing that she did was body composition. So from that, she showed me what my BMR was, basal metabolic rate. And then she explained to me that to lose weight, I needed to eat about 1,157 calories a day, no more than that. And then she wanted to make sure that I really increased my protein. So I ate 1 gram of protein per pound of skeletal muscle that I had, which was about 75 grams of protein per day at the time. And then she really cut my carbs out. So I was only eating less than 20 net carbs per day, less than 50 total carbs per day. From that, what I was eating was a protein shake for breakfast, a protein shake for lunch, and these are Premier protein shakes, pre-made. And then for dinner, I was having 4 ounces of meat and 2 cups of vegetables. As for exercise, all I did was walk. I went in for my 2-week checkup and just to check in to see how things were going. And I had lost 14.7 pounds in just 2 weeks. And at first I was so excited. And then everyone was like, it's water weight, it's gonna come back. Don't get yourself all hyped about this. It never came back and I continued to lose weight. At the end of the first month, I had lost basically 25 pounds in 1 month, which was my goal. I just barely missed it by a few ounces, but basically it was 25 pounds. About 2 months into my journey, I had lost 40 pounds. And at the end of 5 months, I had lost 75 pounds. A little more actually. So that's why I say I lost 80 pounds in 5 months. It was basically 80 pounds. It was fluctuating between 75 and 80. At that time, I moved away for the summer and I was living on a sailboat. And I kind of used that as an excuse to kind of fall off the wagon, unfortunately. I ended up gaining back about 40 of those 80 pounds that I did lose. In November, officially, I got back into it. and I committed again, and I lost all of the weight again by May of 2019. And so about, a year and a half or so, I lost all the weight again, got down to I lost about 82 pounds total. But we got to summer 2019, and once again, I enjoyed myself a little too much, and I gained back a significant amount of weight. I am back on track. I was 185 at my lowest. I currently this morning weighed in at 223.2. I'm embarrassed, I'm disappointed, but the most important thing that I have to keep reminding myself is that I've done this not once but twice before. I know how to do this. I can do this. It's just a matter of convincing myself each and every day to do this. It's been a lot, but it's also been absolutely life-changing for me. I was really missing out on life. So my motto kind of is losing weight and gaining life.
All right, so let's take a minute to read about that and go. Probably not read. How about we talk about it? So, she had some pretty interesting things here. She walked and lost 14 pounds, then 20, then 40, then 75. She definitely had weight cycling. One of the things you really didn't talk about was how she was exercising. Sounds like all she did was walk as her exercise, so she didn't actually have an exercise prescription. Some of the pictures that she put on there were some scary social media type pictures, and I'm also like, just look at the name of her channel, Slim Sadie. Like, that's not necessarily a healthy. Yeah, there's some unhealthy things going on with her, besides just her weight cycling. Like, there's some mental things I'd be really worried about there if she was my client.
Hi, everyone.
All right, so here's some of these SMART acronyms here, and we're just going to go over it fairly quickly here because we're running low on time to keep this under a class period. So SMART would be specific. I want a bad example. I want to run more. No, I want to increase my running by 10 minutes per session. I want to walk every day. No, I want to walk every day for 30 minutes at 115 beats a minute. I want to eat less. Well, no, I want to reduce my caloric intake from this to this. So we're giving specific examples here. I want to bike to and from work each day rather than I want to start biking. Being really specific here. I want to measure things. So I want to measurable. I want to feel better and have more energy. Well, it's hard to quantify that. I want to perform moderate exercise for the minimum recommendations. So regular exercise often improves that subjective well-being. So to feel better, in order to feel better, I want to perform moderate intensity exercises at the minimum recommended rate. I want to look better. No, that's a terrible one because there's nothing measurable there. I want to reduce my calories. I want to be more athletic. No, I want to increase my exercise intensity. I want to be action oriented. I will decrease my stress. I want to take stress relief by walking 3 times for 10-minute walking breaks during work. I want to be healthier. No, I want to increase my cycling by 5 minutes per session each week so that I am going 20 minutes per session. So you want it to be realistic. I want to run a marathon in a month. No, you ain't going to do that. That's 26 miles. Holy cow. No, I want to run a 5K race in 4 weeks and then continue running after that. That's a good, realistic goal. I want to lose 30 pounds in a month. Yeah, you don't want to. That's too much weight. By the way, that's what the other thing about that girl. She lost too much weight in too short a time. So we want to do like 300 calories deficit. So that would be 5,000 calories per week or about a pound per week. So I want timely. I want to run on a treadmill for 45 minutes, 4 days a week. Well, that would be great, but let's talk about how we can make this a little more specific and timely. So I want to run on the treadmill 4 days a week by the end of 3 months. So I will accomplish this by walking for 45 minutes and then increasing my running component every minute. I do remember this like Couch to a C2 5K, Couch to 5K app that did really good of like walk for this many minutes, run for 2. And it would just give you like a whole training session for like 8 weeks to be ready to run a 5K. Just straight, I want to lose 30 pounds. No, I want to lose 30 pounds in 12 months by losing about half to 1 pound per week. And you're going to start out doing 150 calorie deficit. Then we're going to try to go a little more and a little more till we can get to that 1 pound a week. So self-determined goal, the trainer says the treadmill is an easy exercise. So a better example is the trainer, there are several modes of exercise you can do. And then the client will say, I would like to, rather than telling them this is what you should do, giving them options so that it's a self-determined option. And this is kind of that middle section here that we had kind of gone into. Creating an exercise goal. So this is the actual conversation here. So ask your client what their outcome is. Determine the volume of exercise that is going to give them that desired outcome. Example, 150 minutes a week. Determine the appropriate frequent, intensity, time, and type. Then finding out what they are currently doing to see what they're starting with. And then making a realistic approach here. 13 weeks, 4 weeks before a race to get those training effects. Those are just some examples there. All right, we've talked for way too long. Longest video I've made for this class. I'm sorry, and you're welcome all at the same time. And we'll be ready to do some of these in class or hybrid way. I'm not sure how. And talk to you later.